And we are live on this Tuesday morning, the 13th of October, in the year of our Lord 2020. And we're coming to you live from beautiful downtown Crestline. Gotta speak clearly, right? Crestline. In the San Bernardino Mountains of Southern California's Inland Empire, about 70 miles east of Los Angeles, nestled in a little branch of the Sierra Nevada mountains, a little side branch. And yes, that famous movie, High Sierra, was filmed here. Well, probably not in Crestline, probably up near Big Bear. And I'm not positive, but I'm going to find out whether the treasure of the Sierra Madre was filmed up here. We'll see. All right, let's see. Treasure of the Sierra Madre location. Filming locations. Yes. Oh no, that was shot in Durango, Mexico. And in the state of Durango, and street scenes in Tampico, Mexico. Really? Although many scenes were filmed back in the studio and elsewhere in the US. It's Wikipedia, but what the heck. Plot, blah, blah. Filming, casting. Filming. Okay, a John Huston film. Production was shut down in Tampico, Mexico by the government. And then reinstated. Poor Walter Houston had to speak fluent Spanish, a language he did not know off camera. The fight scene in the cantina took 5 days to shoot. All right, let's see. Oh, a graphic death scene was edited later. Okay. Well, I don't know. Some scenes were shot in the US, and I'm betting that some of them were up there. Yes, Madre means mother. Mother Mountain, Sierra Madre. I'd better check on that. I think Sierra means uh, mountain. Stupid Google, it translates Sierra as Sierra. It means mountain. Oh, that's not even Sierra. Okay. The Sierra Nevada mountains reminded the Spanish of a covered saw blade. And Nevada means snow-capped. That's nice. Whatever. I know that High Sierra was filmed in these mountains. And technically, that was not a lie. We are a branch of the Sierra Nevada range. Although we're not on the main branch. And sorry, just a sec. This crazy weather has my sinuses killing me. Okay. Ah, jeez. Where was I going with this? Oh, yeah. No? Oh, yes. These mountains. I've come to realize that we're pretty much sitting on a dormant volcano. Oops. Although many of the boulders that we can actually see, they're above ground or not buried deeply, were actually thrown off of a huge eruption of Mount Lassen about 600 years ago. Mount Lassen is not far from Mount Shasta in Northern California. And somewhere in the desert up there, there is a cliff face with petroglyphs, rock writing. And it's right by the hideout of what's his name? I knew his name a minute ago. Captain Jack, a Native American who was fleeing the cavalry. Well, here's Tora. Come say hi to your adoring fans. I think Captain Jack ended up either shot or hanged, I think. She won't let me take off her cast. It's time to take it off. And she goes nuts when I try to snip at the tape and pull it off of her. She wants outside so badly, but she's not going out with this cast on. Sorry, kid. Oh, you're so sweet. You're a cutie. All right, hop down. Yeah, I got your treats. I got your treats. Here. That's a good little girl, okay? Ah, by the way, thought of that movie, Treasure of the Sierra Madre, is based somewhat loosely on one of the Canterbury Tales written by Geoffrey Chaucer, I think in the late 1200s. I think he died around 1300. Canterbury Tales. Written in Middle English by Geoffrey Chaucer. I suppose the British would call him Joffrey, like the Joffrey Ballet. Between 1387 and 1400. Oh, I had him in the wrong century. Sorry, he died around 1400. Chaucer was a controller of customs and justice of the peace, and later a clerk. In the US, we say clerk. The British say clerk of the king's work. Okay. Who died in 1300? Somebody famous did. Oh well. Anyway, in the Canterbury Tale, and I keep forgetting, is it the Pardoner's Tale or the other guy's tale? See, I have a mental block against this particular story. No, that isn't it. Canterbury Tale, Big of Buried Gold. I don't want the freaking Pardoner's Tale. These three people steal some gold and they go out to bury it and they all kill each other. Well, that's a really brutal summary, but that's the gist of it. In the Treasure of the Sierra Madre, they don't actually kill each other, but oh, watch them have to be gorgeous, like Tom Cruise or even Clark Gable or Cary Grant, the two CGs, Clark Gable, Cary Grant. The leading man was expected to be a little rough and tough, at least sometimes. Yeah, pretty kitty. Tora wants more treats. Hang on. All right, okay. Um, you don't want lemon drops. How about this flavor? It is backyard cookout treats. Well, I can't set them down in midair. You have to back up a little. Every cat I have ever known has expected me to set down the treats in midair while she or he sits at the edge of the chair or the table. No, they won't eat them out of my hand. I have to put them down. In midair? Cats are crazy. Good morning, Sleepy Dave. Hi, Oswald. Let's see. Oswald is. Oh, Christ. I think he's Joseph. I've got a couple people whose names I kind of connect with their screen names. Anyway, got my adoring fans and Tora's adoring fans. You've had enough treats. You should let me take off your splint so you can go outside. I make a little more progress every day. You should see her hopping around because the splint makes the one hind leg a little longer than the other. But she gets around really well. And she almost made it outside once when I came in from outside. She made a break for it. Didn't you? I was about to look up whether I can make pie crust from Bisquick. I usually get the generic brand that's just like Bisquick, but the store didn't have any, so I had to get the name brand. You can make pancakes and waffles. The generic Bisquick has a recipe for banana bread. I've made that so many times, I pretty much do it from memory. Anyway, then I remembered it's Tuesday, I do my show. I'm really frustrated. I usually listen to the radio all day long, but they're just talking politics, and I'm sick of it. I don't like any of those politicians. Dad used to say they're all crooks, and I think he was right. Isn't that right, Tora? Well, for one thing, you don't build hotels in New York and New Jersey without connections. And you don't get a high paying job on the board of a company in the Ukraine without connections. They're like Cinderella's sisters. Every one is uglier than the other. Yes, you, pretty kitty. You've had enough treats. You won't let me take off your splint. Being cute again. Yeah. Uh, anyway, I'm not really much into this today, but it's my regular time, isn't it? Yeah. Here in California, we're stuck with Senator Dianne Feinstein and Representative Nancy Pelosi. Have been for years. Sorry, I got eye itchies now. I have the humidifier going, but the air's super dry today. Maybe it needs a top up. Yeah, politicians are used car salesmen. Yes, they sell us a cream puff, and it turns out the car needs more repairs than the car is worth. Anyway, how do these people keep getting reelected when they do nothing good for our state? We are now paying tax dollars for companies to come out and take down dead trees, dead and dying trees, and dispose of them. Because for several decades, logging has been prohibited. The loggers used to pay the state of California permits to take down trees and actually use the lumber that they got from the trees they took out in order to thin out the forests so the forests would be healthier. Now we have huge wildfires because we are so far behind on thinning out the trees. They're unhealthy, they're dying, some from bark beetles, and some just because the land doesn't have enough resources for that many trees. And you know how we got that many trees? Why they're so overcrowded that sometimes you'll see two trees sharing the first 6 feet of the trunk, and then it branches off not into branches but into two separate trees. Well, about 100 years ago, loggers came in and logged out the forest and they planted new trees. And they planted way too many trees because they were going to come back and log it again and thin out the forest again. Well, and they do this every 10 to 20 years. Not anymore because of the environment. Local politicians generally do a better job because they're kind of using a stepping stone to a bigger job. But once they get that bigger job, they can turn into real monsters. Dianne Feinstein, I believe, was some kind of city official in San Francisco. Not sure where Pelosi came from, but they're both in Northern California. Southern California gets the dregs. Oregon is the number one lumber producing state. I believe it. In California, logging has been prohibited for so long that we have one fire up north, Northern California, has consumed more than 1 million acres, mostly wilderness, mostly all those trees that the tree huggers wanted to save from the evil logging companies. Well, thanks. Thanks a lot. Not only is all that lumber wasted in a fire, but people's homes and businesses are burning down. The wildlife that they want to protect by not logging are being burned up in the fire. Rescue organizations try to save those injured animals that manage to escape. Lots of owls and mountain lions and deer and skunks and beavers and badgers and squirrels and chipmunks and so forth are dead. They died a horrible death because you can't cut down a tree. How dare you? Well, I'm all for saving the bees. Save those snails. Um, the pesticides that Monsanto has been pushing are one of the major causes of bees dying off. Now, the European honeybee was introduced to North America. I don't know what the poor natives did for sweets before that. It isn't as if they were importing sugar before the Europeans came here. But snails, you know how snails got here? A Frenchman imported them. He thought he could sell escargot, but they escaped. And they loved it here. So now we have snails all over our gardens. I guess we would have had slugs anyway. I hate slugs. Whales, yeah, whales have been overfished. When I was a kid, the cheapest dog food, and our dog loved it, was made from whale meat and blubber. That was outlawed in order to save the whales, but other countries still hunt whales. The one that makes the news all the time is Japan. And they have been overfished. Apparently, there's a shortage of several prized food fishes, including my favorite, halibut, because they've been overfished. No doubt about that. And what the real crime is that most of the fish that get caught in those huge nets when they trawl the ocean with dragging a huge net behind the ship and catching whatever, the vast majority of those fish end up in fertilizer for your farms. We don't even eat them. I like fish and seafood, so I must have been born into the wrong family because my relatives never were really into it. They didn't even appreciate lobster when I cooked a lobster dinner for them once. Oh well, more for me. And what really ticked me off was I served caviar, the good little teeny tiny black, beluga egg caviar, just a little dab on a soda cracker with a pat of butter. They wouldn't eat it. They thought it was fish bait. Yeah, my brother recently learned to like shrimp. That's a step in the right direction. Oh, and horror of horrors, he doesn't like onions. There's so many things I like to make with onion. When they're caramelized in the pan, maybe with a little sugar. Well, he'll eat onion rings, breaded and deep fried, but he says it's the texture more than the flavor. There's a way you can eat a raw onion and you just taste the sweet. You pinch your nose so you aren't smelling it, and then it tastes kind of like an apple. But I've been eating onions all my life, so I don't even need to pinch my nose. Radiation from Fukushima. Well, you can always get Atlantic seafood, but it'll cost you because they have to ship it overnight on ice or frozen. I figure the radiation from Fukushima isn't everything around the world, but the farther away you get, the weaker it is. Kind of like when Krakatoa erupted, the ash in the air went around the entire world, created dark skies in the middle of the day, even in Europe. Oh, you're not in Maryland. I wonder if you're one of those people who ate the blue crabs. I had a friend from Georgia who missed the blue crabs they used to eat on the East Coast. Ah, apparently, you can't get blue crabs here. I've had the Alaskan king crab legs delivered frozen. I'm not wild about crab. I've never had a blue crab. Maybe they're better. I'll eat crab. It's good enough, but eh, for the price, I'll get shrimp or lobster. And I have to be careful with shrimp. I sometimes react to it. If it hasn't been properly deveined, especially. I once uh, ate a shrimp that had not been deveined and I reacted badly to the iodine. But I do like fish. I like sea bass, cod, but I'm picky. I don't want those darn pollock fillets or breaded pollock. Pollock, to my mind, is a cheap imitation, not nearly as good as cod. And when a restaurant or cafeteria serves tilapia, 9 times out of 10 it is not tilapia, and I can tell. Eat octopus, live octopus? No, thank you. That's cruel. No, I watched my husband eat a oysters Rockefeller once. They're not dead, they're just on ice. You take the oyster shell and glunk. And then he was telling me how if you aren't careful and if you don't swallow fast, the oyster will wake up and wiggle and choke you to death. I'm like, uh, no thanks. I do like clam chowder, but the clam's already dead, and it's really darn near impossible to chew clam. It's like rubber, but it's tasty. Oh, good for the octopus, Oswald. I will never try escargot. I have had sweetbreads. I've had cow tongue, pickled, of course. I've had all kinds of strange things, but I will not try escargot. They tell me it tastes like kind of like chicken or kind of like tuna. I'm like, it's okay. I'll eat chicken and tuna. I did see a film once when we had a substitute teacher for both Spanish and French classes. She didn't really know the languages, so they showed us a film about how they make escargot. And they feed the snails on cornbread for a long time, so they're supposedly clean. But I have too much personal experience with snails. No, thank you. I'll eat the tree bark if I'm starving, but not the snails. I did eat an ant once. I was just curious. Little kid. I think I was 4 years old. I just licked my finger and grabbed an ant by, squishing it with my finger and licked it off my finger. Boy, are ants acid. They are major acid. Formic acid from the Latin formica, ant. I suppose if it were covered in chocolate, the way the French do it, might be okay. But why not just eat the chocolate? Cut out the middleman. How do we get onto food? Oh, yeah, Bisquick. I thought I had a box of pie crust that you just roll out with a rolling pin and bake it. Can't find it anywhere, so I don't know what happened to it. Mm. So I guess I'll attempt to make it with flour and so forth, flour and butter and salt, and maybe a little cold water. But I'll never forget I used to make a little bit of pie crust for myself and put cinnamon sugar and butter on it. One night, Phil finished eating dinner. I don't remember what I had cooked. And then he says, "Is there dessert?" I'm panic mode. I had nothing, not even jello. I said, "I'll make you something." And I made this little thing of pie crust with a little butter and some cinnamon sugar, about yay big, a little smaller than your standard pancake. And I brought it to him and he said, "Oh, my grandmother used to make this for me." So it was a hit. He loved it. Well, I guess I learned to make it from my grandmother. I know Mom never taught me how to cook. What we had growing up, especially when Mom was on strike and not taking care of the house, and it all fell on me and my brother, we'd take a can of Franco American spaghetti and chop up some hot dogs into it and heat it up. And then in a separate pan, we'd heat up some canned creamed corn to go with it. Very often, that was our dinner. Mom was nuts. When I was 12 years old, oh, Kraft mac and cheese with hot dogs and ketchup. I used to put spam in the mac and cheese. I would slice up the spam and fry it or grill it to get the grease out of it. And I usually just served it on the side with a plate of mac and cheese. And the other thing I liked to make that kids really love is you take your biscuit dough. I would get the crescent roll dough and wrap it around a hot dog and bake it for 10 or 12 minutes. Can't eat ravioli anymore. Horrible childhood trauma. I never liked ravioli. I'm really not into the red Italian sauces, although I will eat spaghetti if the sauce isn't too thick. But, I grew up on Franco American, no herbs and spices, just basically tomato sauce on noodles. Oh dear. I don't want to know, Sleepy Dave. Oh, yeah. Yeah, my son had a similar experience with tomato soup. He will not even have a tomato on his hamburger. I tried to tell the sick witch that he's allergic to tomatoes, as many young children are. Yeah, it was pretty much 40 years ago, almost 40 years ago for my son. I think it was 83. But if you go to a restaurant, a good restaurant, the ravioli won't be so bad. But when they used to heat up a can of ravioli, I'd say that's all right. I'll just have some toast. You not into the red sauces with the. It's mostly the oregano. Now, if they use basil like the Sicilians do or the Northern Italians, okay. But I cannot stand oregano. And the canned ravioli has tons of it. Oh, strontium, I've just been kind of blithering and blathering, and I don't have a topic. I did kind of talk about the Canterbury Tales and how the Treasure of the Sierra Madre was loosely based on the Pardoner's Tale. Pardoner. Pardoner. I have a mental block against that one, but I finally got it right and I checked on Google to make sure. Anyway, I did show, Tora showed up to greet her adoring fans. Let me take off her splint, and she doesn't understand that she can't go outside until it's off of her leg. She's a very expensive cat. She broke her foot and had to go to the emergency vet. Every vet I called, and I called tons of them, said, "We don't do broken bones. Take her to the emergency vet." So that's what I had to do, but they cost at least twice as much. Her bill was over $700. But she got a shot for pain, and she got a splint on her foot. She got more x-rays than I got when I broke my hip. Simmons' Hyperion Cantos, sci-fi adaptation of the Canterbury Tales. Well, the Canterbury Tales are really good, and I was able to read them in Chaucer's Middle English rather than translation. But when it came to Beowulf, in English so old that it was basically ancient Danish, I have to read that in translation. Some of the letters are unfamiliar to me, let alone the words. But Phil's friend, Dr. Willis McNally at Cal State Fullerton, used to recite the introduction to the Canterbury Tales from memory. I remember the first few words. One that April with her sweetest showers, or modern pronunciation, when that April with her sweet showers. In other words, rain. But then I kind of lost the rest of it. And I had a professor, Ron Thronson, who could recite the Jabberwocky from Alice in Wonderland. "'Twas brillig and the slithy toves did gyre and gimble in the wabe. All mimsy were the borogoves and the mome raths outgrabe." And so, but he could recite the whole thing, and he did it fast. And that's actually a trick that some people use. It helps their memory when they say it faster. Hi, VCan. Tora greeted her adoring fans already today. She won't let me take off her splint, but she's getting around very well and demanding to go outside. She made a break for it once, but I caught her. She doesn't understand that I'm not letting her out till she lets me take off that splint. She isn't going out with that thing on. It's a handicap. Beacon is my friend in England. By the way, I've gone through the whole process of applying for disability and never got it. I can now get maybe another $100 a month from Social Security because I'm over 65. But that won't cover my bills. And now, um, I'm on Medicare plus the state Medicaid program. They say that I have to pay the first $700 toward my health care. That's more than I get in a month. My Social Security is almost $600. My sales of books on Amazon bring in about $20 a month. I'm going to have to sell more stuff on eBay. And I just paid over $700 for Tora's vet, so there goes what was left of my stimulus check. And my property taxes are due. They're split into two payments of $1,000 each. The total is $2,007 or something like that. A friend from in Europe sent me 200 euros, which is a little more than $200. Um, I can sell one memento to another friend in Europe. He doesn't give me money, but he'll buy stuff. Don't know how much to charge him for it. Certainly not more than a couple hundred. I'm going to ask for 300 plus shipping. Shipping to Europe is expensive. Well, they keep saying they'll talk about another stimulus check after the election. I dread the election because no matter which candidate wins, there will be chaos. The Great Reset next year? I don't remember the Great Reset. Hey, watch your language, Sleepy Dave. Oh, come on. I can't type and talk at the same time. Okay, R. This is a no F word zone. I had to change my screen name on YouTube because the Google bots banned me from commenting just because of my last name. Well, yeah, I'm not happy with Trump, but Biden? Hell no. Isn't there a third candidate who isn't such a expletive deleted? And Kamala Harris, oh my God. I don't know much about Mike Pence, but I don't think I like him. Ooh, it's confession time. Oswald's um, wrong hand placement. Hello, Vanessa. I was just, well, a lot of people call her if they have children. It's more of a British thing than American, though. It's supposed to be a compliment to the mother of your children. I'm really wanting to put together the onion dip and have and dip my potato chips. Can't do that on the air. That'd be gross. You know, I got the sour cream and I got the Lipton dry onion soup mix, but I like the beefy onion and I could not find any in the store. So I'm going to have to make a guess as to how much beef bouillon to add to it. I'm never in the Bay Area. For about 5 months, I lived in Napa back in '76, I think. Not by choice. My car broke down within 100 miles of Mom's house. I think it was 30, 35 miles. I don't know. I'm down in Southern California. Phil spent a great deal of his life in and near Berkeley. Well, actually, he spent more time in Marin County, mostly on the poor side of town in San Rafael. Sorry, that's bugging me. My hair's sticking out and catching the sunlight from the window. It's there. Anyway, but no, I met him in Santa Ana and we lived in Fullerton, in Orange County, or as they say, behind the orange curtain. I always wanted to live in these mountains, couldn't talk him into it, and he would have loved it here, but never got him to move up here. No, I often visited the Bay Area. I had family up there in Glen Ellen and Napa. On the one place I really liked is a tiny, tiny village called Oakville. It's forgotten the name of the major town. Oakville is basically three houses and one of the finest Mondavi Cabernet vineyards. Is it Calistoga? Let me see. Maybe Google knows. Population 71. It's been booming. It's north of that their town. Um, yeah, even Google knows that it has some of the finest Cabernet grapes. But it's in Napa County. It was in Sonoma County, but that's okay. Let's see. Getting a map here. Right by the Mondavi Winery. Come on, give me a big map so I can scroll down. There's a veterans home to the south in go south on the St. Helena Parkway to Yountville. That's the big town, Yountville, north of Oakville. Quite a ways south, really. I think 10 miles or more. I should get a generator because here in the mountains, after the wind picks up, sometimes they shut off the power. And sometimes the wind damages a transformer and it's down until they can fix it. But aside from the old fire of 2003, our power outages rarely last even as long as 24 hours. In the old fire of 2003, one of their main transmission lines went down because the wooden pole burned in the fire. Ordinarily, though, when there's a widespread power outage, like when Enron was playing games with the power companies and there were rotating power outages, um, we'd have a little glitch, but we were switched over to the wind farm out near Joshua Tree. So we didn't really have outages, but we had to be careful of our computers and plug them into a UPS, Universal Power Source, sort of a battery powered surge protector, because that momentary glitch and then the powering up again could fry your hard drive. A lot of people seem to think that I'm up in the Bay Area. I wouldn't mind living there, except it's expensive. The nice thing about the old fire was that Edison was ordered to replace the food that we lost. And my son, being young and foolish and never listening to his mother, lost his refrigerator because he didn't have the sense to leave the door open when he evacuated. If there's no power, after a certain point, you prop open that refrigerator door so it won't grow mold inside. Yeah, there's a lot of snobs up north. I've been complaining for years. We can't get basic forest management done, like clearing the undergrowth and taking out dead trees. But up north, they have colored pebbles to mark the different paths, like blue pebbles if you want to go see this kind of plant, yellow pebbles if you want to go see the waterfall. And the center dividers on our freeways are ugly steel and concrete barriers. Up north, they're big expanses of grass and shrubbery and totally different. I mean, you're not in danger of a head on collision because you can't cross the center divider up, say, between San Jose and Napa. It's huge. I don't know, maybe they've widened their freeways and made the center dividers smaller, but I can't imagine that. They already had 3 or 4 lanes each way on the 80. I watched them build the section of the 80 that went through Napa. It was like, I think it was a mile long with a ramp at each end. Might have been as big as 3 miles. It was some kind of thing they had to do because of politics. Anyway, I finally got someone to rip out the rotten back porch, which was all wrong from the day it was built. It was built by an idiot. And the only thing that saves it is I didn't pay for it. But I've been wanting that ripped out because it has no way for the water from rain or melting snow to get off of the porch. The spaces between the boards are not big enough. The boards swell up when they're wet, so it can't run down through the porch onto the ground. And the angle of the porch is such that it doesn't run off, it pulls up against the wooden walls of my house. So I finally got it ripped out, and I'm looking into how to get a new porch built, but I'm not in a hurry. You see, that door opens outward, and when there's snow on the porch, you can't open that door. You can't shovel the snow if you can't get out there to shovel it. Fortunately, the other door opens in. It looks as if it used to open out, but somebody got trapped and took it off the hinges and redid it so that that door opens into the house so you can open the door and start shoveling. Yeah, I'm so sorry about those fires up north, Vanessa. We had a couple big ones down here. One basically slightly east and north of Los Angeles. It didn't affect me except for the drift smoke. The other one I'm still angry about. Down in the desert to the east and south of where I am, some idiots decided to announce the gender of their baby with fireworks in a field of dry grass at a park. Idiots! It's illegal for one thing. In some parts of this county, you can use limited fireworks on the 4th of July, but for most of this county, fireworks are banned year round, even on the 4th of July. You can have a professional show, but you can't like buy fireworks. Now, there are some cities where you can get fireworks, but don't bring them to these mountains. They're totally, you can't even do like those little pellets that they call snakes, little black pellet that you light on fire and it makes smoke and ashes. Even those are illegal here. Well, now but they had this smoke thing that makes blue smoke for a boy or pink smoke for a girl, and they set it off in the middle of a field of dry grass. They lit it on fire. Idiots! Well, they've ruined their child's future. Look for millions of dollars. They'll never pay it, they'll never have it. But they will lose their home, their wages will be garnished, they might even go to jail. Although with COVID, they'll probably get kicked out the next day. It still won't be a pleasant experience. My water's empty. Hang on. Boy, I can't wait to get up to 1,000 subscribers so that they'll let me do YouTube live on a portable device. They'll let me record something on a phone or a tablet and then upload it, but they won't let me go live. I would love to show you how I make coleslaw or banana bread or whatever, but I can't reasonably move the computer into the kitchen. I can put the tablet or the phone on a little stand and use it that way. Oh, super chat donations. I don't know if I can qualify for super chat because years ago I had that Google ad thing and they kicked me off and didn't tell me why and kept the measly $20 I had earned. A couple years after that, they gave us all a chance to reapply, but they turned me down with no explanation. Perhaps I didn't have a large enough audience. Anyway, YouTube is owned by Google now. But I guess I have to set up a GoFundMe. I paid Torres vet bill, but that was my money for the property taxes on my home. And I wouldn't have had that if it weren't for the stimulus check. I was really, really panicking before they sent that $1,200, which would just cover the first half of my property taxes and then leave me a 150 or so to play around with. I suppose I could record the cooking on the portable device. Even with that, I have to move it around. My kitchen is much better looking now. It has a new floor. I've been painting the walls, finished with that, but I can't really do it with a gimpy leg. Now I really don't do ladders. I don't like to get on a ladder without a spotter down on the ground in case something goes wrong. But now my limit is a step stool. Something, with four legs and very stable. Tora's being cute again, washing her face. Uh, Maybe today is the day she'll let me finish removing her splint. And as long as she gets around okay, she can go outside again. But she's not going outside with that splint on. I'll never forget when Fat Arnold, big fat orange kitty cat with long fur, Phil named him. Um, he had bandages on his paw because he had an infection and we had the vet take care of him. Clean the wound and give him antibiotics and wrap up his paw. Well, Fat Arnold got outside and the neighbor actually coaxed Fat Arnold over and picked him up to make sure we didn't just wrap some tape around his paw, and it really was something the vet did. Arnold was a precious kitty cat. Oh, I can't ever replace any cat, Oswald. Harvey Wallbanger got outside and was hit by a car. Smokey died of old age. She was 19, having survived a coyote attack, which cost me $650 for the vet bill. Um, Blackie and Inky made it to about 19. They died of old age. 3 of my cats got killed by rattlesnakes. Their own fault. They attacked the snakes. They were into killing snakes. They weren't very young, but still broke my heart. Oh, and the next night after Smokey passed away, I swear she hopped up on my bed and slept with me, but she was already dead. But the best kitty ever, well, it's a toss up between Tuffy and Cubby. Tuffy made it to 19, old age again. Cubby made it to 20 that we know of. We aren't sure how old he was when we got him. But Cubby was a party animal. The kids would turn on the stereo and play heavy metal, and Cubby would lie down right in front of the speaker. And if they were using a bass boost, a boombox type thing, that boosts the bass, a bass booster, he'd sit in front of that speaker. And he loved everybody. And he loved hugging and cuddling and petting. Now, most cats like to be petted for a limited time. Cubby got tired of it. We used to say he wore baggy pants because his skin was very loose. He, what you might call a sport. His mother, Bear, was really odd because her mother and father were litter mates. She showed signs of genetic defects. Her face was too round for a cat. Her ears were too small. And there was just something weird about her eyes. Cubby looked more normal, but he was just the mellowest, sweetest little kitty cat. And I miss Cubby and Tuffy. Tuffy was a kitten. My cat popped back in the 80s, early 80s. My cat popped out kittens that I was not uh, ready for. She went and got herself with child before I got her to the vet to be spayed. That was Jasmine. Chris named her. She was as pretty as a flower. So anyway, Jasmine popped out these kitties, and all the other kitties got homes. But Tuffy, nobody wanted Tuffy. She was a little gray cat, a gray, can't think of the word. You'll see cats that are black and brown all mixed up like a calico but without any white. Well, Tuffy was gray and a golden brown. There's a word for that coloration. Not tabby. She wasn't striped. Wobbly cat. Oh, no, no, no. Cat colors. Okay, come on, Google. Cat colors. Let's look for unusual. It isn't rare. Oh, this isn't naming the colors. It's just pictures. Go back. What are the different colors of cat? Nope. I know that word. Come on. Kind of a torty. Yeah, torty will do. Tortoise shell. But there's another word for it. Okay, well, she was a gray and golden brown tortie. But there is another word for that. Okay, we'll go with tortie. Anyway, Tuffy also had a birth defect that made it difficult for her to walk. So we kept Tuffy, and we called her Tuffy because she survived in spite of a rough beginning. And she basically grew up and became much better at going around, getting around. But she still kind of hopped almost like a kangaroo. I miss Tuffy. Tuffy and Cubby were both buried near each other. They didn't die at the same time, less than a year apart though. And Cubby got buried with his blankets and a can of Fancy Feast. Tuffy won though. Tuffy got buried with the heating pad and Fancy Feast. Wow. That's making me sad. Well, Tora hopped into her window where I can't reasonably get to her, partly because I'm gimpy and partly because it's just darn near impossible. What is my foot on? Oh, I've got to move things a little more. The runner of my rocking chair likes to pull up the edge of the rug, so it needs to be either completely on the rug or completely off of it. Anyway, if it weren't such a hassle, I'd move the rug, but the rug has furniture on it. The furniture would have to be moved. Aw, wobbly cat. Sad. Well, anyway, I've been on for an hour and 20, and I wasn't up to doing this at all. It's time to make my onion chip dip, beefy onion, and start dipping potato chips. I've given up on just eating potato chips I've tried several different brands and I just don't like them anymore. but the ruffled dip dipping chips with a lot of dip on them, I think I'll like that. I need extra salt in my food. My blood pressure has always been extra low, and lately it's been between 80 over 60 and 90 over 70, which is kind of low. Oh, hi, Beacon. Good to see you. Let's see. Um, I don't remember how to do it. Um, this is like, oh, that ain't it. Um, well, let's try the emojis. Oh my. Here we go. There's a heart. Now I can't close the emoji thingy. Oh, here we go. There. I can't say something because it won't give me the keyboard. I don't want to pick a skin tone. I want, oh, here it is. There's a picture of a keyboard. Yeah, I have to keep telling them, oh, 98 over 76. That's pretty high for me. I just smoked a cigarette. It should be 110 over 90. Trance visuals. Oh, wow. I'm just happy to be still walking the earth. There's just nobody else to speak up for Phil. I see that as my job. Here and there, I will admit that he wasn't perfect. He had his faults and he could be an asshole. But anybody can. Windows key. Oh, don't confuse me. I just wonder why the heart has a plus sign in it, but okay. I found a heart. There's a way to make a heart. Oh, I think it's the number 3. Yeah, it's this thing and the number 3. Let's see if that, yeah. The left arrow and the number 3. Windows logo. Oh, yeah, well, um, yeah, it's almost next to the space bar. Windows and what's that other thingy? What is the other key? Oh, the colon. It doesn't look like that on my screen. Do I have, no, I don't have dirt. Okay. Well, let's try it. I assume we push them both at the same time, but the colon key has to be uppercase. Otherwise, I'll get a semicolon. I think you mean semicolon. Eh. Ah, ha! Emojis. What I really want is those stickers. Well, I had to press it twice, but it worked. I want those stickers like on Facebook, but Facebook doesn't own YouTube. Google does. You got Remembering Firebright. Yeah, it needs a good edit, but I Remembering Firebright does need a good edit and some expansion, but I'm in the middle of writing a new book about the exegesis, and it's killing me. Uh, it's more academic. It has footnotes and stuff, and wow. But I'm trying to make the exegesis more accessible to thinking people by explaining it. And part of the problem is that the book that was published as the exegesis consists mostly of letters that Phil typed. I guess deciphering his handwritten notes it would be a monumental task, but there's this place called Zebrapedia where a bunch of people, including me, have banded together to uh, do just that. And most of it has been deciphered, but there are mistakes in many of them. Oh, well, anyway, if they actually asked me, I would have been glad. I would have been happy to decipher his handwritten notes for that book. But no, I'm just a crazy ex wife who has no business having anything to do with the father of my child. And oh well, I got itchies. Anyway, there's the link in chat for Zebrapedia, where you can see his handwritten little images of his handwritten notes, and most of them have been deciphered, but quite often there are mistakes. Partly due to poor handwriting on Phil's part, and partly due to the fact that the people are not familiar with those words that Phil was using. Anyway, it's pretty much time for me to go. I'm running out of energy. I don't have much energy. Haven't for years. I tire easily. I'm good for a couple hours, and then it's time to crash. Well, yeah, my dad should have been a doctor. Nobody could read his handwriting. His name was Harry Busby, and he would get mail for Harvey Beasley. That's how bad his handwriting was. Even when he used block printing, they couldn't make out his name. But Dad was an accountant. Well, track C. Enjoy track C. Now you've got to explain that, Trance. Because I don't. I have a memory steel sieve. Well, my handwriting is legible. It isn't pretty, and I'll mix up cursive, all kinds of weird stuff. Oh, oh, I see. Thank you, Trans Visuals. I have actually listened to full Mets talk more than once, but um, you know, it's so packed with information. I can't always remember it. It doesn't spring to mind quite easily. It takes a moment to think. Thank you. Okay, let's see. So, let's see. We kind of touched on the Canterbury Tales and the Jabberwocky, but mostly I've just been nattering on about this, that, and the other. And I'm glad that all of you came to listen. So it's time to check out with, let's see. Thank you all for listening. There was something I was going to touch on about the Bible, but I don't remember what it was. I suppose next week I'll probably talk about being born again. That's always the phrase that's always made me nervous, somewhat self conscious. People ask me, "Are you born again?" And I can't say yes because it sounds new agey and kind of woo woo. And that isn't my experience, but maybe I'll talk about that next time. Yeah, I didn't enjoy being born. I used to have nightmares when I was very young that could only be symbolic of the experience of birth from the inside. But that's enough. Let's think of happier things, fields of pretty flowers with butterflies and bunnies, and Tora allowing me to remove her splint. It's time to take it off. Okay, catch you next week, guys, and thanks for listening.